Hey, everybody, this is Bob Cargill from Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. And as we record this episode 123, can't believe it. That's a lot of episodes. It's Friday, March 26, 2021, a nice spring day. Geez, we're more than a year into the pandemic. I can't believe it. We can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the good news. I can't wait till everybody, myself included, has the vaccine and we're back to life as normal, at least as close to as normal as we can get. So as I say, as I have been saying the past year during every episode of my podcast, right at the beginning, I always am thinking of you, wishing you well. Hope you are happy, healthy, safe, and sound. Hey, welcome to Bob Cargill's Marketing Show, episode 123, and welcome to my very special guest, Angela Pitter. Yes, thank you, Angela, so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited, and I'm going to introduce you briefly, and then I'm going to toss you a question, which I've already prepared you for. It's the question I always ask my guest right at the top of the show to tell my audience all about yourself. But let me just tell them a little bit about you first. Angela is CEO of LiveWire Collaborative, and LiveWire Collaborative is a digital marketing consultancy. Angela and her company helps business owners and executives to tap into digital marketing solutions that unleash their brand's full potential and help them use social media to connect, collaborate, and convert their target communities. I know Angela because she and I have appeared in a number of panel discussions together. We kind of travel in the same circles, Angela. We both do a lot of social media, marketing, etc. And I said to myself recently, I need to ask Angela if she can come on my podcast. But folks, Angela is a very, very busy woman. And we had to wait until you were free, quite frankly, Angela. I'm so happy you are free today.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky, and so is our audience. If you don't mind, that first question, tell our audience, Bob Cargill's Marketing Show's audience, all about yourself. What brought you to this point in your career?
So I actually started out, you may not know this, I started out in high tech and I spent 25 years in high tech. I'm one of the many in New England that worked at Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC.
I remember Digital, yes.
Yep. And then Compaq bought Digital, and then HP bought Compaq. So through all of those, I was there. So my fun fact is 3 companies, 7 locations, 1 job interview.
That is, that's a lot of, but with a 1 job interview. So once you got the job, you moved around quite a bit.
Exactly.
Within.
And I never interviewed again.
Were you out at the mill in Maynard for a while?
No, I actually started in Shrewsbury and then was in Marlboro. And actually, I think there was one other location. No, it was Shrewsbury and Marlboro.
Yep. So I remember DEC very well. Any one of us who's been around long enough in these parts remembers Digital. Ken Olsen, that was a famous company. Did they invent the first computer or something like that?
Oh, it wasn't the first computer, but definitely they were, in terms of the computing power, they were definitely number 1. So all of the financial industry worldwide had it was VAX was the name of the server with the VMS operating system.
I had a friend who worked at Digital, and I would go to not the mill, I'm trying to think, Marlboro, I think the location. And I remember it was one of the first times, I mean, we're going back decades, but that I had seen so many cubes. That was they called it like a cube farm, meaning all the cubicles where the workers sat. I mean,
yeah,
it was
they hired, I want to say at their highest point, they had probably like 230,000 folks in Massachusetts. They were the number 1 employer.
That's amazing. Very impressive.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your background. I say we travel in the same circles, and we do today. But back in the day, if you will, decades ago, I noted your experience was a lot. It looked like technology and science.
Yeah. I went to Boston University College of Engineering. So that's how I started out. I was doing the engineering thing, and then I switched over doing program management, delivering, global products and services. So I did that, and then kind of moved into sort of a program management training role. And then finally left, like I said, 25 years later. And then it was kind of like, well, now what am I going to do? So I was kind of looking at education, I was looking at healthcare, but I kind of want to do, but it comes to find out, it was like those were the two least places that were sort of, they were definitely not at the forefront of technology, especially in particular education. But I kind of stuck around in the education in the sense, because I actually then 2009, or actually, 2010 is when I decided to run for school committee here at Needham. So I'm looking around, I'm thinking, all right, there's about 90,000 residents here. I'm not trying to door knock. I don't even like people that much. So what are we gonna do? Social media, enter Facebook. And back in then, 2008, you could run any kind of political campaign. You could do anything, say anything, reach anybody. There were like no limits with Facebook. And then so once I got elected, I started actually working with other local political campaigns, helping them use social media to sort of generate that awareness for their community. But then I quickly realized, one, politics doesn't pay. And two, the folks that really need this is, small and mid-sized businesses. So I kind of pivoted, launched LiveWire Collaborative 2012, and never looked back. So I work with small to mid-sized businesses, some larger nonprofits, and it's all about how to get them from that Facebook like to actually converting and get them to either to deliver your to buy your product, or or your service, whatever it is. And so I've been doing that for a minute now, and I love it. And thanks to COVID, they say necessity is the mother of invention. I actually pivoted a little bit and added a new line of services where I'm providing virtual meeting and virtual conference experiences as well.
You are an entrepreneur, Angela, among other things. And I, again, looking back at your background, I thought, oh, Angela and I were, speakers and panelists and social media consultants. But then I look and, first of all, your technology background, then yes, you seem to be involved in many organizations around town locally, which I admire and respect you for, because not everybody, that's a small percentage of people who do that kind of thing.
Right.
Clearly you give of your time. You're generous with your time. You've been a school committee member and also the Chamber of Commerce board member.
The board of the Chamber of Commerce. Yes, I am. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I'm gonna right away congratulate you on maybe your most recent award, but for all I know, you've won a few more since. But I don't think it was that long ago. A few weeks ago, you were named one of the 50 most influential business people of color. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Kudos, props. Tell us, if you don't mind, a little more about that. That seems to me to be a very prestigious award.
Yeah. So what it was kind of looking at, there's they've always had these kind of award lists, so to speak, highlighting folks in Boston, but it was kind of like, what? Everybody's not in Boston. So then they decided, so the organization Get Connected with which Colette Phillips leads, came to the chamber. It's like, yeah, we would like to do one, sort of come up with an award program for the greater Boston area and highlight the leaders, not only in business, but also nonprofits as well. And that's how that kind of came about. So that was actually real exciting. Actually, real exciting to see the other people of color that I didn't even realize were like literally in my backyard. Well, that was a good thing.
Outstanding company you keep, and I know all 50 of the folks who received that award, those honors are impressive. I am proud and honored to know you and have you as my guest on my show. Tell us, so let's, if you don't mind, we're going to kind of skip by the digital days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're here to talk about marketing and social media.
Yeah, let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah, and social media has only been around 15 or so years.
Yeah.
You jumped on it early. I jumped on it early. Tell me what you've seen since whenever you said you started doing the Facebook and social media thing, what you've seen a lot of changes as
a lot of changes. So LinkedIn was actually the first network that came out. I think they were 2003, and then Facebook, I can't remember when Facebook was, 2005 or something like that.
2006, I believe,
yeah,
for
maybe.
us. If you were in college,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm thinking you weren't. I wasn't. Then.
No,
2 years out.
sorry. College years were way before. Anyway, you know, and then obviously followed by, I mean, and somewhere in there, I think Twitter came out right behind them, and then finally it was Instagram, and then all the other ones that since surface, including, you know, my sons love TikTok. But, you know, so what I would say is, you know, they're gonna, you know, and some have come and some have gone. I mean, so for example, Vine was here, and
yes. And you know what? I loved Vine. I actually had a lot of fun with it.
Built their whole business around Vine, and when Vine disappears, their business disappeared. And you know, that's a lesson learned. I mean, and I always tell people, do not build your whole business on a platform. You build your business on the property you own, and the property you own is your website. Everything else is leased property. You don't own it. So Facebook makes a change, and Facebook has made many changes. And you know, when they first made that big change back in, what was that? Now 2018, when they first, you know,
the big algorithm change,
big algorithms and all the security stuff. You know, a lot of companies fell right on their face because that was their platform. They built up everything on that platform. Even now, with all the ads changing, right, with iOS and, you know, people opting out and you're not be able to target them. They can pull the rug out from under you. So you absolutely got to go and have your full website built out. And you better be doing some email marketing because you own your email list. So at the end of the day, email still converts, frankly, better than social media. So you better have an email list going on in the background.
So this is fantastic advice from you, Angela. And I told you earlier, when we finish the show, I often will clip some highlights into me that I can predict that would be one of them. That I know there are going to be many of them. But when you said build, you're on your own property, not leased property, is where you should put, you know, the bulk of your time, or at least, you know, because you don't want the rug to be pulled from underneath you, which the social media properties can do. And I think that's great advice. And it's ironic, people like you and me, people probably think we're only preaching social media, but no, we're not overlooking traditional marketing principles. And that is, you know, your home base is your owned property, your own website. And then you mentioned email marketing too.
Yep. And I bet you before 2020, before the pandemic hit, I bet you there wasn't a business around who wished they did not focus more on their email list.
Yeah.
Because when stuff shut down and you were shuttered, that was the number one way to get back out to everybody real quickly.
Absolutely. Well, you own it, and this is your community. These are people who have given you permission to communicate with them.
Right.
So absolutely, you have to start there. Your website, email marketing, and hey, let's not forget, you know, offline. Again, before the pandemic, you know, a lot of networking events. Now it's been virtual, but we're still networking. We're using direct mail still. That I've heard.
I get mail every day.
Yeah, it still works, and if anything, it stands out more than ever because we don't get as much of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing I would say about social media is there's always going to be a new one, right? There's always going to be a new platform. When there was Instagram, we were like, oh yeah, it's Instagram. And then there was Snapchat. Like, oh yeah, there's Snapchat. Now there's TikTok. You're like, oh yeah, there's TikTok. But here's the thing, right? When I remember when Instagram first came out, I mean, it was like, oh, that's the teeny boppers, the youngsters on it, the millennials on it, whatever. Like basically the 20-year-olds, right? But guess what? Right now, 2021, the oldest millennial turns 40. They're still on Instagram, right? But the 40-year-old on Instagram alongside the 20-year-old, two complete different markets. So the other lesson there is people will age in place on the platform. So while it may not be your target market when it first comes out, like TikTok, but you better, again, claim your spot. So grab your URL, even on TikTok, because those little teeny boppers are too one day going to be old farts like us, turning 40 and still on TikTok.
Angela, more great advice. And I say some of these platforms, if not all of them, to a degree, can be age agnostic, because you never know, sure, we generalize and we do have data that says certain ages tend to monopolize, if you will, certain channels. But as you just pointed out, we grow up on those channels, and before you know it, then, hey, there are older people on those channels.
Exactly.
And I always point to people like yourself and myself. Hey, we're there. We're experimenting. So, and maybe even using some of them for business. So there's probably a bunch of others our age as well there. And I say to clients, test and learn. And, as you said, claim your space, claim your URL, your domain, see if your audience is there. If they're not, okay, spend your time elsewhere. But if they are, learn these channels and make sure you're not overlooking the opportunities that are there. What is your favorite social media channel? Is there
absolutely one? LinkedIn, hands down, is my number one go-to. Number one.
Tell us why. I mean, I
might
be able to guess, but
me personally, I mean, not personally and professionally, I just like it better. So personally, I like it. Professionally, I like it because it's B2B, right? It's the only platform where the focus is business to business. Not that you can't be B2C. You absolutely should be on there, even if you're B2C. If you're a baker, like say you focus on wedding cakes, everybody in your ecosystem, you want to connect with the photographer, you want to connect with the hotel managers, you want to connect with everybody, the florists, because you're referring each other. So you can build up your referrals. So from an ecosystem standpoint, you're going to be doing that B2B referral, even though your end goal is B2C. So you definitely either way can't negate the platform. I find it's less spammy, although that's not proven to be true lately. I think with 2020, a lot more people jumped on the platform. It's growing at an alarming rate. It's over like the end of 2019, I think it was like 600 and something million, and now it's like 740 million. So it literally went crazy the last 18 months or so. So it's because of that, I think you are finding a lot of pitch masters coming into your inbox, and you'll see that stuff that you normally wasn't seeing as much before. But still, hands down, if you want to connect with CEO, anybody C-suite, they're all there. All the big nonprofits, they're all there. So anybody you want to meet, pretty much. The other day I connected, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's on the NFL and he's on LinkedIn. So,
wow,
you'd be surprised who you find there. I mean, that's the other thing that's kind of amazing. And, it's easy I find personally, it's easy to sort of make a connection and have a conversation on LinkedIn. And here's the thing for social media. Somebody actually sees your content.
Yes.
Versus on Facebook, Instagram, that algorithm goes, I don't even know where. You can't even, not like you can even necessarily guess LinkedIn, but I know for sure when I post on LinkedIn, I'll get thousands of views. I'll post on Facebook and maybe get 10.
Yeah, the Facebook algorithm, and I think you pointed out, it changed a couple of years ago, and it seems to be gradually getting even worse in terms
every
of
day. Yeah,
not in favor of businesses. I mean,
Right.
I think it's less than 1%
Right.
reach for a business page. So if you have 1,000, if you have 100 followers, likes, if you will, one person, if you're lucky, is going to see it. Unless you pay. And so
it's completely pay to play. Now, if you are going to pay, that is one of the better platforms. You will get your bang for your buck, if you know what you're doing.
Well, they have great data, and
they have great data.
So the targeting is precise.
Right, the targeting is good, but you know what? LinkedIn targeting is getting better, and LinkedIn, the LinkedIn ads are actually declining. The price is declining. Once upon a time, like nobody would touch LinkedIn ads. It was so outrageous, but they're definitely falling into place.
I wish you could do LinkedIn ads from a personal profile. I believe you can only do them from a business company page. Yeah, I wish they opened it up to so, because my example, I'm a small business, 4 years on my own now since I left the corporate world, if you will, and all my audience is from my personal profile. Now I've started up a company page, but I'm thinking, do I work on that and build up an audience and then
Yeah, you should,
advertise?
because they made, that's the one thing. So I actually, like you, didn't initially have a company page. I literally launched it the beginning of 2020 because I saw all the changes that LinkedIn was implementing on the company page. Like they is so like 10 times better than it used to be. And that's why I did it. I mean, so you can invite your connections.
Yeah.
You can now look at the followers and see who they are. You can connect with your followers. It highlights your, you know, all the content is actually real cool. So now it'll show you the content with the shares, and you can sort it that way is what I should say. You can filter it by all different, you know, options. You know, and if you're a corporation, it'll if your employee tags you or whatever, it'll highlight that, and you can sort that as well. You can celebrate, again, as a company, if you're a huge company, you can celebrate milestones. It shows you all of that. So I was just working with a company just last week, and you know, one of their employees hit the 20th anniversary, and LinkedIn showed that. I'm like, hey, you need to congratulate her. You know, so it just makes it so easy for you to really engage with your audience on the page where you weren't able to do before.
LinkedIn is very good at prompting users to take action. You mentioned wishing people happy birthday or congratulating people on a job anniversary, if you will.
And you know what? The birthday thing, I find people respond better because Facebook does that too.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
On LinkedIn, I find people really respond more than they do on Facebook.
So people, are we in agreement that if someone's listening, they don't use LinkedIn too much, ideally it would benefit them if they take advantage of these cues from the channel and engage, because you never know where that one birthday greeting wish or congratulations is going to lead. It might lead to another conversation. It might lead to a job opportunity.
Yeah. And so it makes you easy. So you need, especially now, everything's online, right? So you need even more touch points. They used to say 14 touch points. Maybe it's more like 17, 18, 19. So everything, you know, everything you do, you know, every time somebody likes your post, that's a touch point. You say happy birthday, that's a touch point. You comment on their thing, that's a touch point. So you want to get as many touch points as you can so you can stay top of mind.
So Angela, I love LinkedIn as well. I'm on it every day. I'm probably on most of the major social media channels every day, but where I will say I think I spend the most time is Twitter. Are you on Twitter much? What do you think about Twitter?
So I was at one time on Twitter a lot more than LinkedIn, but I kind of find now of all the social networks, Twitter is the spammiest. And I think the election in the last 4 years had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
So it kind of turned me off, but now that things kind of maybe are going back to normal, I'm going to get back in there because I've always loved Twitter.
There's fun.
So much things you can do on Twitter. It's so much talk about being able to literally touch that CEO, like literally be able to connect with them, follow them, tweet
you could
them,
tweet
like
the president
whatever.
of the United States. You can
for customer service. I mean, JetBlue. Let me tell you how many times flight delayed, can't find the luggage. If you tweet JetBlue, they have phenomenal customer service.
Yes.
So I like never get in line and go to that counter. I tweet them every single time and they respond literally in minutes.
That's a secret us social media power users know, that if you want good customer service, bring it public on Twitter. Most of the companies usually
not all of them, not because like for example, I have done that, for example, with American Airlines, and they came back a week later. I'm like, I'm not even in the airport anymore. Why are we having this conversation? Yeah.
Well, the advice to companies is this is public brands and businesses, so you should be paying attention, because if people are complaining about you, come down from your ivory towers and respond to them, because it's public, and that criticism other people are seeing, and it could hurt your business if you're not responding. And that's how all customer service should be, whether it's public or private. Respond right away, because that can make a difference between success and failure.
And Twitter is also the best tool if you want to stay on top of your competitors. Any breaking news is happening on Twitter. Number one, anything in the world is going to happen on Twitter. So
that's what I like, the trending
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
And if you see someone mentioned, you're hoping it's nothing negative, you
Yep.
quickly click and see how the person's doing, what happened to the person,
Yep.
the famous, people, celebrities, politicians,
Mhm.
like you say, breaking news stories, sporting
Yeah.
events.
Yeah. Put a list, you put all your competitors on a list, and at a glance, you can see what's happening.
Angela, I do that now. I have a lot of lists and I take
Me
pride in the
too.
list I keep.
Too
So
many.
I got to look at your list because I tell my clients they can look at each other's list if they're public.
Yep.
You can look at other people's lists and it will help you curate. So let's say you're a bank and you want to look at how the competition is doing, create a private list of other banks and follow them and see what they're doing on social
Mhm.
media. Or if you, like me and you, we might be researching a certain category of business. So we, colleges and universities. So you put 100 colleges and universities on a list, and it can be public or private.
Mhm.
I also find when I put individuals on a list, they notice and
Yep.
they follow back.
Yep.
And,
They
it's a
sure
good
do.
way to get people's attention. You talked
Yep.
about those touch points. I
Yeah.
like that when you said a certain number of touch points in order to get people's attention.
Mhm.
Hey, I also know you do a ton of video. You aren't like me. You're not shy. You in front of a camera.
Yep.
You're great in front of a camera. You're great in front of an audience. You do a lot of live video, so I'm curious about that experience on social media.
Yep. So the one place Facebook does work is Facebook Live. So if you're going to do something on Facebook, go live on Facebook. That's the way, to get your attention. Organic reach, that's the only place that, you can kind of almost get it for free, so to speak, is to go live on chat. So I use Facebook and Facebook groups actually. So in combination of going live, or you can go live in your group and give your community their own private experience if it's a private group. But it's all about video in general is all about repurposing. And live content is great because you can actually repurpose it a million different ways. So like,
Mm-hmm.
so like, for example, so you can do a Zoom like we're doing and shoot it live on Facebook. And then with Zoom, you're gonna still get the video file, you're gonna get an audio file. So if you do a podcast, you can convert that into your audio file. If you use what's that tool, Otter AI, if you connect that behind, you ever use that?
No, what
So there's a tool called Otter AI.
Otter AI,
Right.
and
So you
that's
connect it
Otter like OTTER.
er.ai, right? So
Okay.
you connect that to your Zoom, and if you record in the cloud, it gives you the text. It converts. It does the audio to text conversion.
Yep, the captions. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, basically the whole. Yes, the whole. Yeah, so basically a
Transcript.
The transcript.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can take that transcript and make your blog post.
Wow. See, that's brilliant. That's slicing and dicing, repurposing
Right.
the big chunk of content
Right.
into.
And then of course you could then, this format landscape can go right up on YouTube. It can go right up on IGTV supports landscape as well. And then you could do all the snippets you want and do stories. Like there's not a platform today where you can't do a story, right? You can do Facebook stories, you can do Instagram stories, you can do LinkedIn stories.
Yeah.
So and then of course
you meant, I think you didn't mention Twitter. You got fleets
oh
on
yeah,
Twitter.
exactly. And Twitter. Like
They're all coming out with these
Twitter,
things.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
so not everybody knows about stories. Like that was not in one of the questions I planned to ask you, but I love the direction we're going with this. Stories I love because it's ephemeral content. It comes and it goes, and
Right.
I don't want to steal your thunder. I want you to talk about it, but personally, I use it stories on quite a few of the channels as often as possible. Tell people about stories and why you think, if you agree with me, they're worth doing.
It's all about, I think, a couple of things. I mean, you can use stories to tell a story, right? So if you're getting ready for a launch, for example, you can use stories to kind of keep people keep them guessing right to the launch, right? Especially if it's a surprise launch. So you can kind of piece out that content. Like you said, it's ephemeral. It'll be gone in 24. It's that almost fear of missing out, right? The FOMO thing.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's good. So this, so you could actually, I think the stories is the right name for it because it is often people are sharing their journey. So you get a whole different insight. The behind the scenes content is great for that. So is it a whole I almost think about like Susie Zimmerman always used the phrase a neighborhood. And it is like another neighborhood. So even if you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram in the regular feed, stories is a whole nother neighborhood, because there's people that'll come on, they only want the story. They're not even checking their news feed. They're only
Right.
checking stories. That's the
Well,
only type of content they really engage. So if you're
stories
not doing
appear
it, yeah. Sorry,
at
go
the
ahead.
top of the feed. So,
Right.
so it's hard not to notice.
Yep.
And like you said, you know, a lot of people aren't going to scroll. They're just going to click at the top and
Yep.
see what people are doing. And a journey, you use that term. I use that term a lot. My clients, when they're new to all this, they don't necessarily get it right away that,
Right.
oh, you mean anything I'm doing, or, you know, at least anything I'm doing with regard to my business, people are going to be interested. And I'll say, yeah, and many, you know, they're fans. They're passionate about you and your business. Am I, what would you say to
Yeah,
that?
they're more, so we always like to use these phrases, right? B to B, B to C, but it's really H to H, human to human. You do business with people you know, like, and trust. And by giving them that peek behind the curtain, you're inviting them in, and that builds that trust. And so that's what stories really does. It gives them another peek into you, the person. And you know, and that's what they'll remember when it comes time to make the purchase, frankly. Because like, yeah, I know that guy, I trust that guy or that gal, you know, of course I'm going to buy from her.
Angela, that's one big reason I do a lot of social media on my own. I don't have a big budget. I really have no budget for advertising. We've been in a pandemic, so there's no in-person events.
Right.
So how do we increase awareness? Well, I try to do these stories a lot. I try to stay conspicuous in my presence on social media so that people see me and kind of, again, I love the way you're describing it, but I try to give them, as you said, the peek behind the curtain, hoping they'll like what they see. They get to know me. And like you said, you get to know somebody. If you trust them, you're going to be likely to do business with them when that time comes.
Right. Yeah. Because not always, you know, the winner is not always the one with the more features or, you know, the best price. You know, it comes a lot of times it's come down like, I like that guy, I'm going to buy from him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Angela, and that's the social and social media, which
Yes,
a lot of
exactly right.
A lot of companies, you know, they try to use it, unfortunately, like other marketing channels, you know, just, you know, click here, watch this, read this, and they don't share personal. They don't share the human side of their brands.
Right. And if you look at it, I bet you, hands down, if a company sort of looks at their content, the content that's more personal, where they're featuring employees or talking to an executive, having, you know, a panel or something, I bet you hands down that content performs way better than all of the salesy kind of stuff.
Totally. Well, you know, frankly, that's why I do something like my podcast. Number one, I love meeting people. I was telling you, when I do these interviews, I get to know people so much better than, you know, the 5 minutes we have at our networking events, you know, with a lot of noise and distractions, or on Zoom, when we don't have much time at all. I interview somebody, yes, first and foremost, I get to know them. But secondly, of course, you do this as well. We're creating content, and you put this out there, and it's people, you know, getting a peek behind the scenes. Number one, we're doing this just me and you. There's no live audience, but we're going to share it. So that's good content for us. They get to see how much we know about what we do for a living, and they get to see, do I like them? And we hope to be popular, right? We hope that everyone says, yeah, I like Angela. Yeah, I like Bob. I'm going to hire them both. Hey, and they'd be getting a dynamic duel then. They'd be getting a superpower between your superpowers, and I like to think I have some.
Superpowers. Everybody has superpowers.
What do you think of my homemade sign back here?
I love it. There we go. Angela Pitter.
Yes. Yeah, talk about a very little budget. Hey, I'll tell you, that sign, I just bought it at a local store, you know, not for too many dollars, but I put your name on it, and your name's in lights. It's battery powered, it lights up. And I
didn't even notice the lighted part is
yeah, it's lit up.
Does it change color?
No, that would have cost me more when I get a sponsor for my podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Hey, so we hope, I hope, and I know you inspire me, and I hope I inspire some people, and we both teach social media, but we have to get our knowledge from somewhere, inspired from somewhere, not just, it's not all,
Yeah.
doesn't just come from within. So I'm curious who you listen to or watch or read.
So, I'm a fan of, how-to content, because you always need to figure out, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? So like Social Media Examiner is like number one. I just love them. I actually subscribe to them. They do a weekly podcast. They do everything. So great. They always bring in great, experts across the board. So I learn a lot from there. Facebook, I love Mari Smith. She's also
Yes. Yes.
Yep. And there's another guy, John Loomer, who's all about.
I know him. Yeah.
Yep, Facebook.
I haven't heard his name mentioned in a while, though. I'm so glad you brought him
He's still
up.
out there. He's still out there. Yeah. Yeah. And so like all around people like Dennis Yu, he's out there. He does a lot of stuff. Larry Kim with the bots.
Yep.
Yep. And he's always talking about Pinterest. I like, so I follow people by the platform. So Pinterest, I like Jeff C. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right. It's SIEH.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how to pronounce that
he's
either.
The bearded Pinterest guy, like
okay.
like the only guy out there on Pinterest that's talking about Pinterest all the time. And Peg Fitzpatrick as well. She's another one that she does a lot of stuff, but Pinterest is one of the ones that she also talks about. And then for LinkedIn, there's so many on LinkedIn. Vivica Van Rosen, Maloney Daddario. There's just so many people on LinkedIn. Judy Fox, Fox Rocks.
Yep. Yeah, you know a lot. You know them all, and some I don't know. So some I'm going to have to after this podcast today.
Yeah, Instagram. Susie B Zimmerman is big on Instagram. She's actually local here to Boston. Twitter. Do you know Madeline Scarl?
Yes. She does a Twitter chat.
Yeah,
she's awesome. Yeah.
And then tools, I love Ian Cleary and Steve Dotto, because Steve Dotto is the boomer. And he's writing all content for you, like the great. What's his podcast now? Gray something. Yeah, it's a new podcast, but he's definitely trying to get the older folks. And then as far as SEO analytics, Neil Patel, Dennis. And
his blog is awesome.
Yeah.
You were rattling off names. You're a wealth of knowledge. I knew that, but I now, anyone who's listening or watching who didn't know you before, which is probably few and far between, but they now know you, Angela, and how much you have to offer. So much. You've accomplished, you're very modest too, very humble. You've accomplished a ton in your career. And like it's almost like you had the two careers, right? Kind of, sort of the in the computer industry, and and now you actually have this combination of skills, because I'm guessing technology really, really well. But
technology for me is the secret sauce. I mean, I'm always trying to work smarter, not harder. And especially when this pandemic came around, if you weren't on Zoom, you were out of luck.
Yep.
And you were out of luck.
And fortunately, we knew it quite well. You maybe more than I, but I was very comfortable with it, and have enjoyed, believe it or not, spending so much time on it. I don't mind. I want to be out more. I want to see more people in person, but a combination, of being able to do, some teaching or some client work from home here and there, now and again, is not, it can relieve the, long commutes and all that time we spend in our cars. But I like a little of both, the in-person and the virtual. But where I was going is, you've accomplished a ton, an enormous amount, and many more mountains to climb, I know. But I'm curious what your biggest accomplishments or highlights have been up to now in your career.
I think for me this year, the biggest thing, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, is adding in sort of that virtual meeting, virtual conference. So one of the reasons why we couldn't meet until now was I was working with a local nonprofit who typically had an annual conference face to face, and they wanted to bring that online. So we worked together, and I produced for them a 4-day conference.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot of work. but it was actually fabulous, if I do say so myself.
I believe it. If you had
That has
anything to do
definitely
with it,
been
that
the highlight. And so there, there was a lot of technology involved with that. But here's the thing: technology is, if there's something's going to go wrong, it's going to be the technology. And so one of the things that the client wanted, they wanted to make sure we sort of had the backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan. So one of the things we did using Zoom was I set up a virtual help desk. So I had a Zoom that was literally running all day that we manned. And if anyone had any problems with the conference platform or getting into the sessions, or they needed to know anything, you'd be surprised the calls to what came into that. They were able to jump into the Zoom help desks, and we were able to help them out. And
what a great idea.
Yeah. And basically, that's, if you think about the online experience, that's the thing that pisses you off the most. Like, I'm trying to attend this conference and I can't, like, for whatever reason, I can't get in, or it's dropping me, I'm getting the boot. Like, that's the number one thing that people don't like about being online. It's the one that the tech doesn't work.
Well, exactly. I don't know what the exact expression is, but technology is great. Something like it, except
Until
when it
it
doesn't
isn't.
work. And you and I were joking about that phrase, I'm on mute, or you're on mute, that how many times we've said that ourselves, or
Right.
heard, had to say it to others in the last year. It can be very simple things, like your internet isn't working well all of a sudden, or microphone isn't working, or so many things that can undermine.
Everybody's not tech savvy. In this particular organization was one of those where it literally ran, I would say, 20 to 90. It could have been anybody. And I had one guy in the Zoom, he couldn't even turn the Zoom on, but luckily he actually joined with his phone. So I saw the phone number, and then I said, you know what, this is not going anywhere. And I just called him. And I said, hey, it's me, the virtual help desk. I'm trying to help you, but you can't seem to work Zoom.
Someone's probably putting a good highlight reel together somewhere about all the Zoom disasters in the last year. You see them every once in a while on the news. Hey, I see a hashtag I have to ask about your Ask Angela hashtag. I love that. And I think that's great branding, because you seem to have all the answers, and I'm very serious about that. Is that something you use all the time? I've never noticed it.
It is. That's my go-to hashtag, Ask Angela, because I try to be the problem solver. And again, I think that comes from my tech background. I'm just naturally inclined to try and solve a problem. Like this conference, I haven't produced a virtual conference before, but I was determined I'm going to do this.
But you see what
it worked out.
No, and I believe that you did it and then some. I'm guessing exceed expectations in all cases, Angela. And I love the hashtag, because I've been, besides looking at you, I'm looking at your hashtag and your company name, and it's great branding.
Yeah.
And again, you seem to have both the left and the right side of your brain going. And what I mean by that is, left side, I believe, is analytical, right side is more creative. I've always said I'm mostly creative. I had one of those tests back in the day where they tell you that, but I'm guessing you're like, strong on all four quadrants, analytical, creative.
Yeah, definitely. I lead with analytics. I mean, because at the end of the day, I always tell my clients, Facebook likes don't pay the bills.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, I want to get more likes. Yeah, that's not it. Wrong metric.
Yeah, it's not that easy, and they're not that easy to get nowadays either.
Right, and frankly, that's not the metric, right?
No, it's a vanity metric.
Yeah, it's a vanity metric, so nobody cares, right? And then, like you said, and then it's going to disappear, right? They're not going to even show that anymore. So.
No, you can't. You've said a lot of gems, shared a lot of knowledge with us, dropped a lot of knowledge with us today. We have a few more minutes to go, and I'm sure there'll be even more knowledge dropped. But when you said something about building on your own property, be careful how much you bank on that lease property, and the lease property being social media. It's a great point. I mean, first and foremost, have a great owned infrastructure, your website, your email, know how to work marketing principles traditionally, digitally as well. But the social, I believe strongly in, but you can't rely on that solely by any means.
Nope.
Yeah. And it sounds like you would agree and then some. I mean, that's what you stated earlier on, and I applaud you for that. Question, we've seen a lot of changes, people like you and I. Is there a way to look into the future and imagine what is going to happen with social media and marketing? You know, if you don't mind, I'll go first with a short answer to that. You know, in the pandemic, I've seen marketing in a good way change. I think it's gotten softer, more empathetic, and in sales, people aren't quite so aggressive and cutting to the chase so quickly. I feel like there's more conversation, more sensitivity, and softer selling going on, and that's a good thing. But there are many other changes. Whether that's going to stick or not remains to be seen. There are many other changes we've seen in the last year, or say in the last 10, 15 years. Any predictions for what changes we might see on the horizon?
So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the personalization has definitely that has leveled up, and you know, and I think it, again, is about meeting them where they are. And so I find that brands are trying to do a better job with that. One of the things that clearly was highlighted with this pandemic is security. And I think, you know, that's going to continue to be at the forefront: security, cybersecurity, password management. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with clients that they got the same password on it. I'm like, yep, they're going to hack that one and going to hack them all.
Yep.
Right down the line. It's like that, you know, the deck of cards is just gonna fall, collapse. So I think security is going to be, I mean, even Zoom's made so many changes this year, you know, with the waiting room and the links and all that good stuff, that they, you know, frankly should have had. Some of it they had in place. They didn't really like, it wasn't obvious. It was there. It was one of those, it wasn't a default. You had to go in there and make it a default. And some of it they updated. So I think security is going to continue to be a thing. Voice, use of voice search, you know, Alexa. Oh my God. I'm like, I don't want one of those things in my house, but like, there's so many different, you know, voice machines nowadays. But I think, you know, as a marketer, you got to think about how you can just kind of use voice. Even LinkedIn. I don't know if you remember, you probably, I'm sure you've seen this with your name, the pronunciation thing.
Yes.
So
was it you who told me about that, or I remember talking about it at an event?
Cool, right? You can add your name, and of course, you got 10 seconds, so you put in a little bit about your pitch as well. But I think also that works really well on LinkedIn is voice messaging.
Yes,
so you get a lot of stuff in your inbox. Do a voice message. I mean,
it's more personal. You hear the person's.
It's personal. You hear the voice, I mean, or a video message, but voice for sure. And then, frankly, Clubhouse has capitalized.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Clubhouse.
Yeah, but that's the audio thing coming back. It's like old school radio.
So I have the Pixel 5. It's an Android. I can't get on Clubhouse right now. Are you on Clubhouse?
I'm on it.
I'm envious.
Wait, but do you have a iPad?
I do not. No, I have no iOS, anything.
You have no okay. Right. But you can still, but again, claim your URL. You can still get on the waiting list and claim your URL. So do that.
I should do that. Thank you for reminding me.
Definitely do that because people are coming on in drills.
Well, I like the audio. I mean, that's why I have a podcast.
I think, and I think one of the, you know, again, I think what's attractive about it is that it's audio and not video. I think some people with Zoom's like, oh, I gotta look good. Or, you know,
right.
Looking at me, turn my video up, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's just because it's just audio, you also forces you to tune in a little bit more. I think, you know, you just kind of, you know, when you see that Zoom screen with the 50 squares.
Oh, yeah.
You just kind of do that.
So there's a psychology behind it, which is marketing. It's part psychology. Right. And I agree with you on the audio. I said to you, I think I've said it on here as well as off, that when I do these podcasts, I pay so close attention to what my guest is saying.
Right.
Audio, if you're not listening, you're missing everything. Obviously, when you're doing audio, there's no other way for it to sink in, and so it does force you to pay attention. And so marketers who can leverage the like you say Clubhouse or podcast or
podcast, you know, that's why I think podcasts have like quadrupled. Like they've gone bananas. Like, it's not like podcasts just showed up. I mean, podcasts been around for a while, but I have to say in the last 2 years, it kind of exploded.
Exploded. I agree.
Yeah,
Totally.
really
I
exploded.
agree.
Yeah.
Like I remember when blogs came around, and fortunately so I'm not in Clubhouse early, but I was blogging early, podcasting relatively early, not crazy early. Because podcasts I think have been around for like 20
Forever.
years. Yeah. I just started my podcast 2.5, 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but it was, I find it was earlier than some of my peers. But then I hear someone, oh, I've had one, since 2005 or whatever, 2010.
Yeah. Podcast's been around a long time, but in the last
They've taken off in the
they've
last few
taken off.
years.
It's just
Yeah.
like the hockey stick thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upwards trajectory.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think
Anything else we haven't covered, Angela, that you
the
want to
other
say?
thing I was getting ready to say is chatbots.
Yeah, chatbot. Now
is really, especially I mean, I think that's definitely a total work smarter, not harder tool.
yeah.
Like, even the way Facebook has implemented how you can kind of set it up, the messaging in the background.
You can, yeah, when you have a business page. Yep.
All that cool stuff on your website, again, a tool, quick customer service by building in the bots.
Yep, they're auto messaging, and
auto messaging. It's like, it just makes your life so much easier. Like you say, people aren't taking advantage of chatbots, they should.
And consumers are expecting that instant gratification, that instant communication. So it may not be as personal as a real person, but at least it's a response right away. It's a response.
Like if I'm looking for XYZ, again, a lot of people are looking for that. How do I do this? Like, so what are those frequently asked questions? Just set your bot up to answer them all.
Yep. No, that's fascinating. And that's a combination of technology, but also coming as close with technology can be to being human, and in that you're paying attention and that you're responding. And that's where expectations obviously are in 2021 and going forward. People want things immediately.
Yes.
I mean, look at Amazon, how that's revolutionized retail. Now it's e-tail, and I have 2 sons, and they're buying almost everything, it seems, from Amazon. Why go to the store?
And all they do is spend money.
Yeah. Well, that's that, for us marketers and business people, that's a good thing. Keeps the economy rolling, but then we put on our consumer and human being hats. We got to keep earning money in order to spend money.
So you can spend it. You can't spend what you don't earn.
That's for sure.
Actually, you can, but you shouldn't.
No. Hey, anything else? Because I'm very serious. I've run out of questions. I mean,
I think we kind of covered it all. I think, I think you had asked me about, the only thing we need to talk about, you had asked me about my my 5-day LinkedIn challenge.
No, you know what? Yeah, was that on my? That is something I noticed. Talk about your 5-day LinkedIn challenge. Thank you for bringing that up.
I started that, I want to say maybe 2018, and it's coming to different forms. I've done a 21-day, I've done a 5-day, I've done a 14-day. I always go back to the 5-day because I think short and sweet's a good thing. But it's all about like, what's those 5 things you can do on LinkedIn to just kind of get you going. So for one, I always talk about the top of the fold, right? So when you come to your profile on LinkedIn, that stuff you see right at the top before you scroll down, right? So at the top of the fold, what do you have? You have the photos. You got your professional photo and you have your background photo. But in particular, the background photo, people don't take advantage of that. That's like your #1 marketing tool on LinkedIn. As soon as people pop up, they see that great background. I don't know, I can't even remember the dimensions, but it's like 16 by 300 or whatever it is. But it's huge.
You get me thinking about mine now.
There. You can put your website there. You can put pictures of you in action if you're looking for speaking engagements. You can put your services in there. You can put your hashtag in there. Like, you got a whole landscape. You can do whatever. I mean, so that's like, like use it or lose it kind of thing. Like, it's real estate. It's prime real estate, actually.
No, that's great advice. And I have taken advantage of it, but I haven't changed it up, and mine's not. And you should change it up,
because you know what? People notice that. I tell people, change it quarterly. Almost think about seasonally. Update that. Yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah. And then right below that, now you got the headline. And again, it's not the title. It isn't headline. It's you thinking about what you do.
Yep.
who you do it, who's that audience, and then you got to target, there's a book out there, The Riches Are in the Niches. I love it.
The riches are in the niches. Yes.
And then the secret sauce, because again, there's plenty of people, LinkedIn marketers like myself out there. How are you doing it differently? What's your secret sauce?
Yep. Unique
What do you
selling
bring to the table?
proposition.
The selling prop. That's right. The value add
Yep.
proposition. So that's like the top of the fold. Now you go below the fold, there's other stuff. So right below the about section. Oh, and the about section, I forgot that. So that's right there. That's next, right after the headline. And that's where you actually go into even more detail about the what, the who, the how, right? And it gives you the opportunity to sort of tell your story. Because the rest of the LinkedIn, let's face it, the rest of the profile almost resembles the resume. But this section is not the resume. This is a section where you kind of mix up all those features, especially if you've been in business for a while. I've had many clients that, been in business 20, 30, 40 years, right? They've done so much. What are those key things? What are those key skills that keep coming back? What are the themes? And kind of weave it all together. Don't make people guess. So many people put put a little piece of it and you don't get the before, you don't get the after. Put it all together, tell the story, and then close it with a call to action. So they actually spend time and read the about, which they may or may not do, but hopefully you make it interesting enough that they'll stick around. What's that next thing you want them to do? You want them to call you, then you want them to email you, connect with you on LinkedIn. What is it? Have a call to action. So now we'll go. Yep, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
And then now you're going to go further a little bit down. So right below that about is that experience section. Again, that is the area that most resembles the resume. But even then, as a business owner, think about how you can sort of highlight all of those different services. So for example, many people have been in business, again, back to the example, 20, 30 years, right? And they'll just have one box that says owner and a little description. Break that out. If you have 5 different services, break it out so that you list the title becomes the service. So that's a little trick. Use the service and make that your title. And then within that, then you could add, rich media. So you can link to a video, or you can upload a photo or whatever, and kind of highlight that service and make it more 3-dimensional by adding the media. And so that's a way to kind of break out that 20-year, 30-year blurb, and then be a little bit more thoughtful about it. And then finally, way down at the bottom of the profile, the day 5 is all about projects and publications. And people kind of use that interchangeably. And a lot of times, if you have a blog series, you can put that in publications. Sometimes people use their podcast series, they highlight that. Or, projects, sometimes they talk about their big events where they were a panel, where they were talking. Or sometimes if they have courses, they'll put that in projects. So they kind of use projects and publications interchangeably, but it's the area where you can highlight your work. Think about it as your portfolio. That's really the way to view that. And then what's nice about it, whether it's projects or portfolios, if you actually work with it, do other creators, you can actually, if you're connected to them on LinkedIn, you can add in those creators as well. And that actually gives it more social proof, so to speak, when you actually see other people there that worked on that project.
So tell us, especially those who haven't heard of this 5-day challenge, is this something that's ongoing? Is this something that people sign up for? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's not ongoing. It just happens when Angela decides she wants to do a challenge. But right now, we want to kind of roll the clock back. If you go to my Instagram at Angela Pitter Speaks and go to my IGTV, you will see a 5-day challenge.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you can go.
I find that fascinating, and it sounds like a very unique program that you've put together yourself here.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and
you just rattled it off.
With that is I converted it into, I had this summer I did a 7-day mastermind, and so part of that challenge, and it was other, because it was 7 days now, not 5.
Yeah.
It was 7 weeks. It was all it was quite an effort, and that's going to actually end up getting converted into a course.
Wow.
So keep your eyes peeled for that. Hopefully I will get my act together and launch that for May. and I'll have a LinkedIn course. Oh God, I can't remember the title now. But it's going to be Attract, Build, and Influence. I know that's like sort of the
Attract, build, and
subtitle.
influence.
Right.
You know, I've learned so much listening to you, and I'm just one person. Think of all the people who are going to listen to this podcast. We're recording on Friday, March 26th, but let's say this is out there next week, the 29th, the 30th, 31st. I'll be dropping on YouTube, on LinkedIn, wherever. And so many
Wherever
people,
social media exists.
yeah. That's one thing I like to think I do well, and you do it extremely well. But we'll put it out there. So many people are going to hear all these nuggets, Angela. I mean, so I'm someone who does this for a living, and I've learned a ton more than what I know. So imagine the people who are just beginning, they're going to be like overwhelmed. It's like a textbook you've shared with us today.
Thank you.
Devising your own coursework, et cetera, et cetera. I want to wrap by, I neglected to ask you early on, and this will be my final question. I had a few that I had written down, frankly. I told you I ran out of those, but I could keep coming up with them. But we both agree we got a hard stop coming up. I get a haircut appointment. I don't know about you, but and if you look at my hair, it's getting a little long. And so I've scheduled a hair appointment. That's one reason I got to go in a few minutes, to be honest. But I want to ask you how you're doing personally, meaning this has been a tough time for so many, all of us in different ways. Are you doing okay during this pandemic? And how are you?
So my go-to, one of the reasons I have a hard stop is I have to work out.
That's important. Wicked important.
So that's what I do. And it's a Zoom workout. Here we go with the Zoom again, but it works for me.
Yeah.
It works for me. And that's how I keep it together. It's like, I just got to get it all out, work out, and then I'm good to go after that.
That's awesome. And I like that you're making that a priority. And I'm very serious. After my haircut, I'm going to go for my run. You think, I'm a runner. So that's my workout. And I'm going to end my week that way. I couldn't think of a better way to end my week than doing this podcast. Then getting this long overdue haircut, and then a little run, and then maybe relaxing tonight. No, seriously, you've made my week, Angela. This has been an awesome episode. And I thank you so much for your time. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you're also a really fun human being to talk with.
Back at you, Bob.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much. Thank you for anybody who is watching and learning from Angela Pitter and listening to us. This podcast is available pretty much wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I hope my podcast is one of your favorite ones, especially this episode 123 with Angela Pitter. I will be back with another guest sometime in the near future. So I look forward to talking with you again soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you, talk to you all again soon.
And connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yes. Oh, hey, don't go yet. Angela, where can they connect with you?
So connect with me on LinkedIn, Angela Pitter, or Twitter, Angela Pitter as well. Instagram is Angela Pitter Speaks, and my Facebook page is Angela Pitter Speaks as well.
Connect with Angela.
Connect with her.
It'll be the smartest decision you've ever made online.
Angela, and I'll find you.
Yeah, no, Angela is great, folks, and I think you know that after listening to today's episode.
And of course, I should have mentioned. Of course, there's a website, www.livewirecollaborative.com.
Thank you, Angela. Spoken like a true marketer. And your host should have remembered to ask you those questions. That's usually my last question. How do people find you? That's one I did not write down, so it didn't come to the top of my head once I was getting ready to close. Thank you, Angela. Again, thank you. Thank you, listeners.
Bob. Have a great weekend.
You too, Angela. Bye, everybody.
Bye.